every 2 weeks, and you can just stop by the information booth and sign up for it, or you can just shoot me an email. My email's on that card and say, I'd like to get that. We'll sign you up for that. If you're like, I get that already and I really don't want to get it, you can send me that and I'll take you off too. So it works both ways. I just won't like you anymore, but no, I'm just kidding. But we don't want to fill your inbox up if you don't want it filled up. Couple quick announcements. We have our updated calendar for the rest of the year on that table, so please pick that up because it has the camps. If you're looking for a great summer camp, we're doing 3 youth camps this summer, and so all the information's on here, and we will we hope to have things.
You're getting close to. You're older than me. We're getting close to 50.
How many a month? And if you're going to the summit,
you're 48, aren't you?
No.
That's our general council.
Oh, you're younger than me.
District council will have information for
48 years.
Sorry. Okay. I know Justin.
I don't have any hair left, but come on.
Me too. Mine's all on my back.
But thanks for hosting us. It's good to meet Church of Grand Pass this year, so we're excited about that.
Shave it off, dude. You're
sexy as hell. You got the calendar, you can
oh, is this thing on? Oh.
And then let me just kind of give you a heads up about the celebration service, because I want you to make sure your kids are ready. If you haven't never been here, our celebration service is a little unique because it's mainly we will honor everyone who came. We'll give out certificates and all that stuff, give kids an opportunity to go across the stage if they got superior with invitation, all that good stuff like always. And then we always have
loser
what we call
award.
the honorary
Those kids
choice.
suck, but someone told them to keep doing it because it's a gift and it's not.
And so to make that work,
we need the ministry of Simon Cowell.
Make sure your kids are ready.
Yeah.
So they need to bring their guitar with them, they need to bring their music on a jump drive, whatever, because they're not going to have a heads up. It's going to be like, and now presenting in this category, right there, and we're going to say your name, and then if they say some kid's name was in your group, you're going to send that kid to the front, and you're going to hand that, if you got music, you're going to give that to one of our runners, so we'll make it real clear and safe for how it works, but your responsibility is to make sure your kids are ready, just in case their name gets called. Does that make sense? Obviously, we have 800, 900 people here. We're not going to call everyone, but we could call yours. And it would be really bad if they're like, oh, my flute is in the bus, loaded underneath everything. So we're going to move on.
My flute?
Without the flute, she's going to cry all the way.
Can you see Brian playing the flute?
That's just how it works. So we don't know who's going to be in that. We wait until all the presentations are done, and those aren't done until noon, and then we create that service. So that's just how it goes. After the service is over, you can pick up, hopefully by then we'll have all the scores done and all the evaluation sheets ready for you to pick up. And if we can just have one key leader from your church, you or someone you designate to come and pick those up, that will help us out with that too. And then also, I think we have a couple churches I heard this morning that pre-ordered t-shirts that haven't picked them up yet. And so these are at the information booth too. So if that applies to you, please go by and pick those up because we don't want to throw them away or give them away. All right? So any questions? Any questions about today? We'll be here until about 9:15, and then 9:30 presentation start, and we'll go until about 8, and then we'll be an hour and a half lunch. Start back up at 1:30 with the celebration service. All right. So that's good. I'm going to be able to get lots of time with my friend. I am just blessed to have my friend Marshall Snider with us. How many of you know Marshall? Marshall's no stranger to our network. He's a part of our network family. He's been a youth pastor in our streets at 2 different locations. Marshall had his hand in this event in transforming it to help it look like it does today. So I just built on what he was already doing. And he helped us see that there could be so much more to fine arts than what we were doing many, many years ago. And he began to help us mold and shape what we see today. Not only that, he's led a ministry for, I don't know how many years now, 10 years?
13.
13. See, look at that. I'm old, I forget. 13 years, a ministry called Bridgetown Ministries. I mean, he's going to tell you a little bit about that in Portland and even how you can get your kids plugged into that. It's a great tool to teach your kids and disciple your kids. Some of you have already participated with him in that. But really, what he's done with that, I just asked him to teach us on leadership. I had Starbucks talking with him a couple weeks ago, and I just feel like I'm just sitting there with a guru, and he's just feeding me. So I wanted him to come and feed me for a little bit. So when you come, Marshall, and just speak into our lives and love on our leaders.
Amen. All right. Okay, so I got to use this and this, right?
Well, that's supposed to be in your pocket. And let me help you out there.
I think. Oh no, it's going. It's going. It's going. Yeah. Awesome. Well, good morning, everybody. How are you? Are you doing okay? Usually for me on this day, the last day, I was like, just give me coffee. And I have so many funny stories about this. I have a buddy of mine named Joe Lloyd, and he and I would, he's my best friend, and he's down in Durango, Colorado now, but he would come up and bring students to this, and we would take off and go get coffee. And one time we went to this coffee. There used to be a coffee stand across the street from us. You know, we're two young youth guys, and we're borrowing. I don't know if we would find keys from Albany and take their van and drive it and go get coffee and stuff like that. And we just did all kinds of stuff. We had walkie-talkies, and that was a dangerous thing as well. And I've had many times, I think Brian's actually taken a walkie-talkie from me because I would be like, hey, breaker 19, you know, and it was like, this is serious business, Marshall. I'm like, breaker 19. and so we're driving down the road, and we find this coffee shop, and we stop over across the deal, and it's like one of those, we didn't know what it was, but it was one of those coffee shops where they have girls that draw you into the coffee shop. And so we're driving in there, we're looking for coffee, and we drive up to this thing, and this girl leans out, and she just, would you like anything? And we both looked at her, and we drove away. We're all reading that book, the book that's about bouncing your eyes as guys, you know. I think every young man's battle, every man's battle about teaching your kids to bounce their eyes. So we looked and we went, and we just drove off. It's just like lots of great stories, a lot of ministry, a lot of. When I think of my time in, working with Brian and different ones in this room, a lot of my life was spent just encouraging students in this Oregon district and having a blast doing it. And I really did. I was seeing the group from Dallas, and Dallas was the last youth ministry post that I had, which was probably the highlight of my life. I enjoyed it and still think about that time and I miss Bob Swope a lot, who passed away, and now he knows everything. He's probably telling Jesus how to do a skit or a big huge play or something like that. And but I had a blast, and I had a blast working with students, but most of it was I had a blast working with leaders, and I enjoyed working with leaders. And so my journey took me up to 3 years ago. I was at a network conference, or whatever you call it. Is that what it's called now? What did we call it then? It was like District Council? Yeah, District Council, right? And we started wearing jeans about 3 years into it. Before that, everybody dressed up and wore suits and ties. Remember that? All this stuff. And then we started getting rid of that and started going to jeans. It was a lot better. And so some of you guys remember that. Remember that stuff? I'm looking at some of the old guys in here and we're going, I'm glad that's over, right? And so I remember, I don't even know what I remember now. Oh yeah. So we're talking about what I do. So I moved up. I was at a conference. I was transitioning out of youth ministry. I thought I was burning out. Had a pretty aggressive youth ministry. We were doing a lot of cool stuff. We had a master's commission. We had interns. We had youth. We had tons of stuff going on. It was awesome. I was also my pastor's right-hand guy. I was the senior associate youth guy doing all this stuff. I just thought, man, I'm just getting tired and I'm done. I'm going to go, open up a coffee shop or something like that, do something crazy like that. And I remember meeting at that point, our district superintendent was, I'm trying to think of who that was too. It was Cap Marks, right? Cap Marks, so I met with him, and here he was in the middle of the district conference, right? And Cap, I call him I called and I got put to a voicemail. My wife called. She's from England, right? So she calls him and she goes, "Hello, this is Leslie Snider." She says, "I need to get in touch. My husband needs some mental help. And so, would you meet with me husband?" All right? And so he immediately, I'm 20 minutes. I come home, I flop on the couch. I'm just like, what is going on with me? And she says, "You got a meeting with the district superintendent in 20 minutes in Salem." And I live in Dallas, right? So we fly up there, and we sit down, and I'm sharing. He's asking me questions. He's coaching me is what he's doing. So coach. When you coach, you ask questions. A lot of times we tell people what to do rather than coach and bring out the answer that's already in them. So he's asking me these questions, and I tell him what's going on. He says, "You're not burning out." He says, "You're in transition." He just says, you're in transition. It's time for you to begin to pray to see what the Lord would have you to do. And I remember then we had this event, and he came to it, and he tapped me on the shoulder, and he's like, Nate, have you ever thought about church planting? I'm like, no. You know, this is before church planting kind of was coming on the cusp. It was just hitting Portland and sweeping across Portland. But it wasn't as big a deal as it is today. Now everybody's planting a church. I mean, especially where I live, there's new church plants all over the place, you know, and good and bad. You know, that's good and bad. But so he said, why don't you, so I started praying about it. I was doing some work with Top Flight Leadership, and I was traveling and speaking and doing some different things with them. And I thought maybe I'm going to go do that. I'll speak at camps or whatever and do that for a while. But I had no idea. And I was standing at the district council, and a guy named Ken Vanderhoff is a good friend of mine, tapped me on the shoulder and says, hey, we feel like we have something we want to do. We'd like you to come and interview for it. And so I went up, and my interview was, we're going to give you 3 years of salary to come in Portland and do whatever you want. And let's just see what the Holy Spirit will do through you. That was the interview. Yes, please. And I'm like, I'm in. I told my wife, and she goes, you what? Right? So I have these 2 little kids, you know, I have 2 little, Sam and Noah, they're 2 little guys, and in fact, Samuel, I fly out on Wednesday to watch him graduate from Air Force Boot Camp at Lackland. And so I'm stoked about that. They had a shooter on the base yesterday. They closed the base down and sequestered all of our kids. And he called us and gave us a 20-second phone call. Said, "I'm okay." Click, and that was about it. And then we get a phone call today. And then on Thursday, I get to hold him. So, well, if he'll let me, he's a soldier, so it may not happen. I'm like, he's gonna be like, "Hey, Dad, back off." So we move up there, and we just really began to live this life, kind of a Jim Leach life, in my opinion. Jim Leach, who kind of did the same thing. He just kind of dropped everything and said, I'm going to Mexico, man. And he just said, let's see what God will do. And we began to pray and seek the Lord, and through Scripture, particularly in Ezekiel chapter 37, in the Scripture where the prophet's talking about the valley of dry bones, he's put in this valley. God asked him a question, and he says, Son of man, can these dry bones live? And it was Ezekiel's answer that changed my whole world, because Ezekiel answered, he said, O sovereign Lord, you know. And so we knew that at that point, it was not going to be about a SWOT analysis. It wasn't about a 3-year plan or 4-year plan or 5-year plan. It was truly going to be a plan of listening to the Lord to see because, God knows what the city needs. Right? And so we just position ourselves to listen to that, right? We will probably hear what he has to say, and then we'll actually join alongside what he's already doing in the city, right? There's good works going on. People say, well, Portland is the worst city in the world, it's the least church state in the nation, so on and so forth. That's how they lead about my city. And I like to say, you know what? God's doing some great things in my city. He's doing awesome stuff going on. Some of the biggest revivals of our times came up through Portland and wrapped around through John G. Lake. Different ministers, all different kind of groups of people came into Portland and did awesome things. So God's doing great stuff. And so we began to pray, and the first thing he had us do was sweep streets. And so we began to sweep the streets of Portland, and not in a prayer intercession focus, but more of like full-on brooms and dustpans and sweeping streets. And people asked us if we were in trouble, and we told them no. We're loving on Portland the way we think Jesus would love on Portland. And they'd say, so you guys are like Christians, like they'd never seen one, like if we were in the wild, this is what we'd look like, and saw one, a Christian, really sweeping the streets. He was, right next to Elvis and, Bruce Lee. They were all together in the same place. And yeah, so it was an amazing transition. And from that, out of that, we were standing at a fountain, and God asked me to wash feet there. And so I grabbed a chair and a blue basin, asked a guy if I could wash his feet. He happened to be, an older, inebriated, homeless guy. And that's where I met Jesus for the first time in my life. I worked in the church for 15 years before that, and did the church thing and loved it, and met Jesus for the first time in the eyes of a drunk homeless man. And it changed my life, and still is changing my life. 13 years later, now we've been under the bridge in Portland for 13 years. Now we provide 18 services to our friends that find themselves in need of assistance. All of us find ourselves in the ditch every once in a while. Amen? Yeah. And so our metaphor at Bridgetown, so our mission statement is loving people because people matter. We do that by creating relational environments that provide three things. Mobilization, so we mobilize groups and individuals. Last year we mobilized over 14,000 volunteers through our organization. Phenomenal things to see. Right now we have 3 churches up doing a short-term mission trip, which I'll tell you about here in a minute, called the Transformation Trip. And they're up right now. They just finished their homeless day. They did a banquet last night for guests, and they set up the room like a fine dining room. And we have fine china and goblets. And they set it all up, and then they wrote invitations. And they went out into the streets of Portland. They invited people to dinner. And people came to dinner that sometimes you're talking to 3 people at once. The best people in the world to talk to. And so they sit down, they have dinner, and these young people, you see this little timid little girl, she's over in the corner bawling her eyes out because the person she invited is coming. And she's scared to death to have a conversation with this person, right? Because she doesn't know how to talk to them. I'm talking to young people who come from our churches, and they go like this: how should I talk to them? And I'm thinking, what are we teaching our young people? And I said, well, you could start by, hi, my name is. That always works really good. That's how I start a conversation. I don't normally come to a conversation and say, hey, do you know if you were to die today, do you know where you would go if, but you could pray this real quick prayer with me and everything's good. By the way, what's your name? That's why our kids are afraid to death of evangelism half the time. Because we teach them this gimmick, give them a gospel cube or some kind of, put on a Bible man cape and toss them out into the streets and tell them to, get out there and share Jesus with people, right? Come on. And they're like, nah, I think I'll just stay really passive and just kind of be right here, right? So this little girl's over in the corner, she's crying her eyes out, and I go, what's the matter? And she's like, she's going to come. And I just looked at her and I said, hey, it's time for you to put on your big girl pants and go sit down and talk to that lady. And it was funny because she knows sign language. She knows sign language, and the gal that she was with, she's like talking to 4 or 5 different people by herself, having her own conversation, right? And she just gets up and she looks at her and she looks at me and she says, I can't handle this, and she walks out the door. But the guy next to her is deaf. She doesn't know it. And so they have this conversation in sign language. And this little girl just comes alive. And I said, see? See how that works? That happens all the time on our trips. Happens all the time when young people come into Portland and they get connected, and it's a powerful thing. So mobilization is part of that. And then we have a thing called relief. And relief is where we get into the ditch with the lives with others. Our metaphor is the Good Samaritan story, right? And so we get into the ditch with other people and we get into life with them. We do that through a thing called Night Strike on Thursday nights. For the last 13 years, we've been under the bridge in Portland. Anybody been there? A number of you, awesome. And so we're still doing that. We just added medical and dental. I just spoke at the Oregon Dental Association. You ever preach at an Oregon Dental Association? I was talking to a bunch of dentists. You're very self-conscious about your breath there. And you don't, everybody's got these great white teeth except you. They're showing pictures of people with meth mouth, and I'm going, I know that guy, And so it's just it's a crazy story. I'm talking to these people. They're laying all this stuff out. I'm going, I totally know that dude. You're showing his teeth on national television right now, or his lack of teeth, right? And so it's crazy. So every Thursday night for the last 13 years, I raised my boys under a bridge. Taught them about Jesus through the eyes of homeless people and through the broken and busted up and all those things that I am inside sometimes. These people live out externally every day. And so we get to be with them and just love on them. Why? Because they matter. They'll come and they'll be 3 weeks sober and they'll celebrate with us to say, I'm 3 weeks sober. And then the next week they'll fall off the wagon and they'll come back down and they'll say, I'm 1 week sober today. And we put a blanket on them again. And we tell them they keep going for it. Because how many times have I fallen off? Have I fallen off under the ditch, whether it be this way or that way or this way or that way? But that's how we look at them. We just love on them and we're just there with them all the time. And it's just this incredible place that we get to be at on a weekly basis. I miss it anytime I have to go and travel and speak. I'm like, I wish I was there because I get those people better. Times now in the world, this world that we walk in, I get it, but sometimes I'd rather be under the bridge because a lot of times they're more honest with me than some of the people that I talk to. They just live it. I'm just screwed up. And they don't say screwed up. They use other words. But they just say, I am screwed up, but we're being taped. And I'm with you. So, now if you came down under the bridge, it might be a different story. But so I had to fire a volunteer the other day. I was telling Brian about that. I had to fire a volunteer, and he got in my face, and he punched me in the arm, and he confronted me and said things about my mom I didn't know, and then he... that's the kind of world I live in, man. It's this great place. And so I invite you to join me. Anytime you want, come on down. But we do a thing called transformation trips. And that's really the idea of what we want, is we want to see people transformed. I don't want kids to have a sin management program and a fire insurance policy. I'm just not into that. I'm not into them knowing when to stand up, sit down, kneel. I'm not into them knowing that they can blab out all the Bible verses, but yet they don't know how to talk to another human being. You've done all the Bible quiz stuff. You pushed the buzzer 100 times and you said all the verses, but you can't. You're asking me how to talk to another human being in your own culture? You don't know how to do that? What are we teaching people, right? And so my passion is these transformation trips do just that. If they can come down and they can go through a week with me on our transformation, they can talk to anyone. They can talk to anybody. Because as they come down, they hang out with us. We have a week of passion trip called a Tuesday through a Saturday, $250. We take care of everything. You just pick the kids up, drive them up. We have a bunkhouse with showers. Those of you that didn't get to experience that, we're sorry. I know you slept on a church floor, but now we have a bunkhouse with showers, a place to do our teaching, all of those kind of things. We get a 6,800 square foot building for $600 a month. That's awesome. God has just really been blessing us. So we'd love to have you. We still have open dates in the summertime. If you want more information, you can come see me. These trips are not about evangelism. I'm just letting you know that straight up. They are about discipleship. That's what they're about. We believe that evangelism is part of discipleship, not the focus of discipleship. Because discipleship starts with the first handshake. Wouldn't you believe that? It doesn't just start after someone gets saved and then they go to 101, 201, 301, 401. Discipleship starts with the first handshake when someone says hello. And so we talk to kids about being in proximity. We actually, everything that they learn at Bridgetown, they can actually transfer to their hometown. And that's the whole point, is that they learn how to seek the peace and the prosperity of the city that they've been exiled to. Pray for their city on my behalf, because when their city prospers, they prosper. So the whole point is seeking how that happens, and we show them different ways they can do it. We have a whole setup, so we actually have a Go manual that helps you to prepare for the trip with classes and teaching in it, actually how to fundraise for it, because we have a lot of youth pastors that say, man, I'm bringing 75. And then a week later, we're bringing 3, man. We're bringing 3. And then we have to tell them you can't come because you got to have at least 10 to actually pay the bills, right? So $250 for a whole week of just hanging out and doing all kinds of different things. Your kids are going to be homeless for a day, in groups, everything's safe. We've been doing it for 13 years and have never had any issues. Okay, Brian helped me write these. I remember when we first started them, Brian was in youth ministry in Bend, and I'm calling up Brian saying, Brian, I'm thinking about this. I sent him the schedules. I think he actually did a trip. He came and did a trip. And so 13-year journey, we've seen thousands of students go through this. We'd love to see the Oregon District come through that. Now let me tell you, it's the hardest trip for you to promote because it's in your own hometown. And I see that the scripture, a prophet has little honor in his own village. Your kids come to my city, Portland, to my city to get voodoo donuts. Your kids come to my city to go to Saturday market. Very rarely they come and pray for it. So you come and hang out with us in Portland, come pray for my city, and your kids will see how to pray for their city, and then they get to go back and pray over their city, and they'll see how to do that. It's all practical stuff, and there's people that have done, who's done a trip? If you've done a trip, raise your hand. Talk. Some of you, gosh, there's a lot of people that have done trips. Come see us, and hopefully tell them, they'll let you know if it was really good or bad. I think they're pretty good. I haven't got too many complaints, but not saying it's perfect, but we'd love to have you. So I'll stick around after if you have any questions. But thanks for allowing me to have this time. And so I have, we have to be done by 9:15. So I got about 12 minutes. Okay, so strap in, ready? And here we go. So roller coaster, but it's good. So I remember when I was doing youth ministry, sometimes struggling through at times, what do I do next? Where do I go? How do I implement this? Where can I get help? What's a great way to lay my youth ministry against something to let me know whether I'm actually hitting all the dials? You know what I'm saying? And there was lots of things that came across my path that maybe helped me to see some things. But recently I was the city coordinator for the DeVos Urban Leadership Initiative. I was asked to teach that. I was the only white guy in the whole thing, which was crazy learning for me to see my white privilege and the things that I think that I know that I don't know, that I find out how actually white I really am, and how that has opened doors for me that I didn't even think opened doors for me, and that I need to be aware of that and how I live. In my city, Portland, we are one of the most racist cities that you'll ever be a part of, and you learn about that on our transformation trips, the things we have done, white people have done to that city for other races, crazy stuff. I mean, you would go like this and leave the room because it's just shameful. But we teach students about that on these trips, and it's really awesome for them to learn about gentrification, how to learn about what happened to the Chinese, what happened to our African American brothers and sisters, and why their homes are gone and there's a hospital. Just crazy stuff there. But looking for these models in ministry that help me to understand how I'm doing, where to go, and how to open the door so I can have a more fruitful and prosperous ministry. Not just about numbers. I don't want to say that. But I do believe a healthy ministry does grow. I do believe that. I believe that healthy ministries do grow. But I also believe that unhealthy ministries grow as well. Right? So understanding, being careful with that is important. And so today I'm just hoping to lay a couple of things for you that as ministers, that you would be able to grab this and be able to lay your ministry on the top of this, and it would help you to see where you're going on the journey. Does that make sense? It gives you some, like I look back at that door, there's hinges on the door. The door is no good if there's no hinges on it, because it just blocks the way, right? So you have a great door, but there's no hinges. These things I'm going to give you are the hinges on the door. Actually, the hinges are the most important part of the door because they open and close the door. So hopefully these will be hinges in your ministry that will help the door of your ministry open and close and flow and ebb and let people in and so on and so forth. Does that make sense? Are you with me? Say aye. Aye. All right, good. So the first thing I want you to do, if you have a piece of paper or just put this in your mind, or a lot of us are bald so you can write it on their forehead. And so the first thing I want you to do there is you're gonna see three circles. There's gonna be two top circles and a bottom circle, and they all come together. They all come together. Okay, so they kind of look. If you can see this, they look like that. See that? So they kind of come together like that. So you want to write these words down if you can, or I'll give you my email address at the end of this, and you can email me, and I'll send this drawing to you. Okay, very important. But the first thing we want to start with is ministry vision. And you've heard this. Mission and vision are crucial. Without a vision, the people perish. They cast off restraint. There is no direction. 99% of the people that I work with in Portland that are on the streets, the thing that they've lost is vision. It's been ripped off. That's why they're there. They've lost vision. They've lost that sense of direction and hope. And you hear them when they sit down, they have dinner, you hear them talk about what they wanted to be, what they wanted to do when they were growing up, right? So your ministry vision is key. It's really important. Now, as youth leaders, you should make sure that your vision matches that of your local church, not your own vision, because this is where the black hole of youth ministry is coming from. Many of us are senior pastors in youth ministry. And we have created a separate church within the church. And what happens is our kids go through the church, they go on mission trips, they have incredible community in our youth ministries and so on and so forth. And then what happens is this. They get done with youth ministry, they're 18, they got to go. So I don't want them to go, so let's create a master's commission. So we keep them as adolescents until they're 27, 28 years old. But then they're still in the youth ministry. Rather than 18, we're not working well with the church, the whole church. And so these kids get out of our youth ministry and they go to big church. They go to big church, right? And they get in there and they don't know anybody. They don't like the music. They don't like what's going on. And so they bail. This is what's happening all over America. It's all happening all over. And this is why kids are bailing. They do not feel a part of the community. That's it. Community is what keeps them in there. Community is what will keep them in there. So we have to have a ministry vision that matches that of our local church, our senior pastor, our leadership there, because that's the tribe we're a part of. That's our tribe. Whether you like your tribe or not, that's the tribe you're in. Amen? Yeah. Okay, so making sure that. So the next thing is you want to do is the first circle is strategy. So what is your strategy? What is your strategy? What are you doing? What is the things you're doing? So for us at Bridgetown, our mission statement is we create relational environments that provide mobilization, relief, and transformation. That's the why. That's why we suck air. The next part is that strategy, or the what things. What are we doing to make that happen? So mobilization, relief, transformation. Mobilizations, we do transformation trips, we do an internship. These are our strategies. Relief, we do Night Strike, B-Town Kids. And then transformation, we do Beyond the Bridge and Lift One. All programs of what we do. That's our strategy. That's what we're doing. Does that make sense? What's your strategy? How are you living that out? So you have to have those vision and then strategy. That's the first circle. The second circle on the next, it should automatically go, okay, I've got all these strategies, all these things I want to do. The next question is what do I need in order for that to happen? What are the things I need? I need money, I need people, I need trucks, I need inflatables, I need Jerry Mullins, I need whatever, I need a worship team. All these are capacity items. They're capacity. The wherewithal of which I need to do the ministry and the strategy that's laid out. See, these are the things. These are the questions that come up. Okay? Many of us in youth ministry, we get to the point where we go to strategy and then capacity, and we stop there because our dreams fail because we don't feel like we can get the things we need. Now, and then we go into faith mode. Well, God is the God of 1,000 cattle and 1,000 hills, and we start blabbing and grabbing. God, I just claim a van right now. I just claim it doesn't happen. You're wondering why it's not happening, because He doesn't necessarily always work that way. But the things we really need to grab onto is it says in capacities, it should make me move to my relationships. Here's the deal. Listen, everybody look at me. Look at me. You have an incredible incentive for people in your churches to give things to your ministry. You know what it is? What's that? What is it? Huh? Lost people? No, you're a 501c3 and you get a tax deduction. It's true. It's part of the deal. It's part of what we got. So there are people in your church that have things that they want to give for the kingdom, but you can also give them a tax deduction for it. And so you should be thinking in your mind, and it should, that's the tribe of the people. You have the largest volunteer organization in the world in your building. They're the whole point of the Great Commission, going out and doing great stuff. These people are just waiting, and the only reason they do not give is because you do not ask them. That's number one. And number two, you don't believe they'll give it when you ask. And number three, you don't give them a good path for how to give it and where it's going to go. You plan it out. You tell them, you ask them, you show them where it's going to go, they're going to give. I met with a lady the other day for our ministry. I asked her, I said, I would like you to give $15,000. And she said, and I showed her the path, and she wrote a check, gave us $15,000. And matched it. She said, whatever else I raised, I can match it. So that gift is now $30,000. I just sat down with her for coffee, asked her for $15,000. And she gave it. There are people in your church that will give your youth ministry $15,000 because you ask them. Now, you probably want to check with your senior pastor before you ask someone in your church for $15,000.
Not probably.
Anyway. Capacity. So what do I need? The next thing, so we move that last circle, and it's relationships. And relationships are key, and this is important, that you develop those relationships. Does that make sense? So remember, strategy, capacity, relationships. Those are the big three circles. Now, where those circles come together, the top one, you'll see it comes together. See that where it says that right there? And it comes together. So one of the things you do, strategy and capacity, where they kiss and come together, you want to pick up ministry models. So who do you model your ministry after? What are the three models of your ministry? Who do you look at? What's a youth ministry that you guys look at? Pastor Brian. Yeah, well, what's a youth ministry? Give me a youth pastor, any youth pastor. I know you're in Grants Pass, right? Yeah. Still. Yeah. Awesome. What do you have a ministry model that you guys look at? A youth ministry that you look to?
No.
Okay, that's all right.
Kind of.
Who is it?
Like Hillsong.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. I'm just looking for ministry models. So the idea is, when I was in youth ministry, I had 3 ministry models I was always looking at. My pastor was always about big. So he sent me to the largest youth ministry in the world down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Blaine Bartell's ministry. And they were doing 2,000 kids and swapping them. They had 1,000 over here, 1,000 over here, and they were swapping them in the middle. Crazy stuff. And I went there. And so I always had that in my mind. So we always have to have models. So what are the models you're looking at? Do they mesh with you theologically? Do they mesh with you? So the ministry models are very important for you to have in your head and around that you're looking at. So who are those? Because that helps you when you're trying to ask questions. The next one is where capacity and relationship meet is resource networks. So what are the resource networks in your city, in your community that can help you do that? What's the network tab that you can use? Does that make sense? What are the resources around that you can be looking at for you to find the things that you need in order to make this whole thing happen? Does that make sense? If you're with me, say aye. Aye. All right, good. And then the last one is ministry partners. Ministry partnerships. And this is huge for us, guys. Who are we partnered with? I would say this is more of my network, my city network. If you don't have a city network, start one. Start one. It doesn't have, and please, don't make it all the AG guys, because you'll only know AG guys and AG things.
That's true.
You know, the Methodists are doing some really cool stuff in youth ministry right now. Did you know that? You know, the Baptists are kicking it. They're doing some awesome stuff right now. We may not always agree on all the theological stuff, but that's all right. We will agree on things we can do to reach kids, because they all want to reach kids as well. And they're creative. Some of those people are really creative. And if you're just sitting in your own camp, you're not going to learn anything.
True.
You know, I'm just like, you cut me open, I bleed AG positive, and that's it, baby. That's sad. You need to get some friends, man. You need to get some people outside of your tribe. You need to get some people that don't speak in tongues. You know what I'm saying?
True.
And get to know what they're doing and let them know what you're doing, because you'll cross-pollinate. And you know what? You can't have a big event unless you're all at the table. Put the things off to the side that you know, if it's about reaching kids and maybe they don't pray, they don't want to do an altar call, that's okay. We can still have people accept Jesus in small groups. That's all right. But you have to figure out those things. But those ministry partnerships are so important. And all of this comes together to give us what we call a breakthrough potential in ministry. These breakthrough potentials of ministry. And so I want to encourage you today, and I know I'm like, just, like, who will give me 2 more minutes? Just 2 more, 2. Can I get 2? That's it. Nobody's going to, okay, I'm done. No, anyway. But all that to say is these words. So strategy. So mission is important. Mission, vision, strategy, capacity, relationships are the big 3 circle. Where they come together, ministry models at the top, resource networks where capacity and relationship come together, resource networks, and then where strategy and relationships come together, it's ministry partnerships. You lay these out. I do this with all of my staff. Every one of my staff have one of these for their department in our organization. We have 5 staff, and they have to lay that out, and we identify this. What it does for me, it empowers my leaders. I do very little in question answering now because they have clarity of vision. That's what leaders do. One of the number one thing we do as leaders is provide clarity. That's what I do. I just provide clarity. If they're unclear, come see me. That's what they got to do. And then I roll them through this model for whatever they're doing. For whatever they're doing. That's the model. Look at that model. Every question you have about ministry, every question you have about, I use this for marriage, I use this for everything, rolls through those. Because it's usually a strategy, capacity, or relationship issue. That's usually what it is. Strategy, if they're not clear on that, we talk strategy. What's the program you're doing? Capacity, what is it I need? Most of the time, my answer is capacity. They want to know, how do I get this resource? And I'm older, so I have more people in my network, so I can connect them. So what I do now as an old guy, almost 50 years old, I was talking to Brian about this. What I do now is I'm a resource, and I just give them people. I can't expect a 28-year-old to go raise $15,000. He doesn't have necessarily a person in his network that can give him $15,000, but I can, because that's where my role is right now. All right, there you go.
Stay for a second.
Oh yeah, email. My email. Here's my email. If you want to, I'll send you that model. My email is just M as in Marshall, Snider. That's my last name. S-N-I, not Y. I D as in dog. E-R at bridgetowninc.org. Say, Marshall, I want that model. And I'm telling you, take it and work it through. I'll actually help you work it through. I have some questions that you could ask that will actually help you to answer those questions, so you can identify those key areas. That's the hard part: is what is capacity? What do I need? And helping to identify those things using that model. What's that? My email is msnider, M as in Marshall, S-N-I-D-E-R at bridgetowninc.org. And thank you very much. God bless you.
Don't you love these guys? I love you.